The cabin was calm, the kind of quiet that only exists in first class, when everything suddenly changed. Passengers looked up as a uniformed cop stopped beside a young black teen sitting alone by the window. She clutched her boarding pass, confused and nervous, as whispers moved faster than the plane ever could. No one knew why she was being questioned, only that the tension in the air was impossible to ignore. The girl had boarded like everyone else, polite and silent, headphones on, eyes forward. But now, she was being asked to stand up. Some passengers stared, others looked away. A flight attendant hovered nearby, unsure what to say, while the cop calmly insisted she'll leave her seat. The teen's voice shook as she tried to explain, her hands trembling as she reached for her phone. What no one on that flight knew was who she was calling. They didn't know her father was a powerful CEO, or that this moment would expose deeper questions about judgment, status, and fairness at 30,000 feet. As the plane doors stayed open and the delay grew longer, one phone call was about to turn a quiet flight into something no one would ever forget. And just as the cop reached for the aisle, everything changed. The teen stood slowly, her legs stiff as she moved into the aisle. She kept saying she hadn't done anything wrong, that her ticket was valid, that she was just trying to get home. The cop listened but didn't answer, his hand resting near his radio as nearby passengers leaned in, pretending not to stare. The mood in first class shifted from comfort to unease, the kind that makes time feel heavy. As she waited, memories ran through her mind. Her dad had insisted she fly first class this time, saying it would be safer, quieter. He was busy overseas, closing a major deal, but he'd promised to keep his phone on. She hadn't wanted special treatment. She just wanted a normal flight, like any other teen. The flight attendant checked the manifest again, whispering with another crew member. Something didn't add up, but no one could say exactly what. The airline policy was mentioned. Security protocol followed. Still, the questions stayed unanswered. The girl finally unlocked her phone, her fingers shaking as she dialed the number she knew by heart. A few passengers noticed the name on her screen and exchanged glances. The cop paused, listening to his earpiece now, his expression tightening. Somewhere beyond the jet bridge, a call was being answered, and whatever was about to happen next would change everything on that flight. The delay stretched on, and frustration began to ripple through the cabin. A businessman across the aisle checked his watch, annoyed but curious. A woman near the front quietly recorded audio on her phone, sensing this was more than a simple mix-up. From the cockpit, the captain asked for updates, his voice calm but firm, reminding the crew that departure time was slipping away. The cop stepped slightly aside, speaking low into his radio, careful with his words. From his point of view, he had been called to respond to a report, nothing more. Still, something about the situation felt off. The teen didn't match the warning he'd been given. She wasn't loud or aggressive. She looked scared, embarrassed, and far too young to be the problem. Everyone was acting like she was. The flight attendant felt caught in the middle. Airline rules, passenger comfort, and public perception all collided at once. She noticed how the teen kept glancing at the phone, waiting, hoping. A text finally appeared on the screen. "I'm here. Don't say anything yet." Whispers spread again. CEO, corporate jet, legal team. No one knew what was true, but everyone felt the shift. The cabin grew quiet, as if the entire flight was holding its breath, waiting to see who would step onto that plane next, and whose authority would truly matter. The sound of footsteps echoed in the aisle, sharp against the hum of the plane. Every passenger turned instinctively, some holding their phones a little higher, others leaning forward in silent anticipation. The teen gripped her boarding pass tighter, heart racing as the door at the front opened. The tension in first class was almost unbearable, like the calm before a storm, where even a single breath could set everything off. The cop straightened, sensing that whatever had arrived would change everything. He had followed protocol, but now uncertainty crept in. The teen's eyes widened as a familiar voice called her name. She hesitated, unsure if this was real or just another twist. Around her, murmurs grew louder, passengers glancing at one another with the same unspoken question: who was stepping onto the plane? Meanwhile, crew members exchanged worried looks. Some passengers discreetly recorded, others whispered about corporate power, influence, and accountability. The teen's phone buzzed again, one short message, just 3 words. "I'm in the cabin." Her dad's presence was no longer a distant promise. It was real, and it shifted the balance in an instant. The cop's hand twitched toward his radio. The teen's breathing quickened. Everyone felt the weight of the moment, knowing that what happened next would be unforgettable. The cabin was frozen, waiting for the storm to break, just as the teen's father stepped into the aisle. Commanding and calm, a sudden commotion erupted near the back of the plane. Another uniformed officer appeared, this one with a more urgent air, speaking quickly into a radio. The initial cop's confident posture faltered for the first time, his eyes darting between the teen, her father, and the new arrival. Passengers stiffened, sensing that the situation had shifted again. What had seemed like a confrontation under control was suddenly spiraling into something far bigger. The teen clutched her father's hand, relief and anxiety warring in her chest. She thought the arrival of her CEO dad would solve everything. but the second officer's presence hinted at deeper complications, protocols, reports, and questions that no one in the cabin could answer. Crew members whispered nervously, glancing at the growing tension, while some passengers began murmuring about security, authority, and corporate power. Her father's expression remained composed, but the air around him crackled with intensity. Phones appeared everywhere, capturing the moment in real time. The cop who had removed the teen from her seat felt a flush of doubt, the weight of scrutiny pressing down. The teen's pulse quickened. The cabin was silent except for the low hum of the engines. Yet everyone felt the storm building. An unexpected twist had arrived, raising the stakes higher than anyone had anticipated. The cabin held its breath as the teen's father stepped fully into view, his presence commanding attention. He spoke calmly but firmly, asking the officers to explain the reason for removing his daughter. The first cop hesitated, shuffling papers and glancing at his radio. The second officer stepped forward, revealing that there had been a miscommunication and alert about a passenger matching a description. But the report had been mistaken. The tension broke in an instant, replaced by murmurs of relief and astonishment. Passengers watched as the teen was escorted back to her seat, her father walking beside her. Crew members exchanged glances, relieved the situation had been resolved without further escalation. The teen exhaled deeply, gripping her father's hand, grateful but shaken. Phones were still out, capturing the moment, as whispers of CEO and power filled the cabin. Just as the plane began taxiing, the teen's phone buzzed again. She hesitated before looking at it. Tan froze. A message from an unknown number appeared. "You're not safe yet." Her father's eyes narrowed, and the cabin, now calm moments ago, felt suddenly charged once more. The conflict had been resolved, but a new, unexpected twist hinted that the story wasn't over. The passengers sat in stunned silence, realizing that what they had witnessed might just be the beginning of something far bigger than a simple flight incident. The teen finally settled back into her seat, still holding her father's hand. The tension that had gripped the plane slowly eased, replaced by a cautious sense of relief. Passengers whispered among themselves, replaying what had just unfolded, a misunderstanding that escalated into a full-blown confrontation, only to be resolved when authority.com and clarity stepped in. The cop who had removed her earlier offered a quiet apology, and though it was small, it acknowledged the human side of mistakes made under pressure. Her father stayed close, reassuring her, explaining that sometimes even the most careful systems falter, and that courage isn't just about standing up for yourself, it's about remaining composed when things feel out of control. Crew members smiled discreetly, grateful that the incident had not disrupted the flight further. Around the cabin, a sense of reflection settled in. People recognized the balance between rules and understanding, authority and empathy, power and patience. As the plane lifted off smoothly, the teen looked out the window, the city lights blurring into streaks. She knew she had been seen, protected, and heard. The final message on her phone remained unanswered, a reminder that life's surprises don't always end neatly, but sometimes the strongest moments come from facing them together. The flight continued. At last, carrying everyone toward a future shaped by what had just happened.